Welcome to the podcast Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook, where we will discuss the latest and most relevant business strategies to help you do one thing extremely well: sell more homes. We'll discuss everything from business planning to lead generation and conversion to past client customer service and everything in between. Join us for authentic conversations and nuts and bolts takeaways you can implement into your business today. And now, Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook. Got Kelly Cook with us today, of course. Kelly, how are you doing? What kind of day are you having?
Doing great. It's October, man. And it's not necessarily fall leaves in Arizona, but it is beautiful. It's like highs in the low 80s already. High and it's like yes, we're here.
Yeah, it's finally, even here in Nebraska, it's been pretty warm up until like literally this week. We're getting into the 60s. I think we have a frost warning coming up. So
let's go.
Which is fine. I'm all about it. Now, when we start getting to 2 feet of snow, I'm not crazy about that. But fall weather, we've got football on. I've cooked soup and chili this week. So it's my kind of vibes.
Let's go.
Yes, great. And it's a great time to, of course, we've talked about this, October is kind of the time to buckle down, start planning for your next year, and really at this point, kind of go back to some basics to finish out the year and plan for your next year. And Kelly and I were just talking about something before we started recording here that, I think that there's a few things, Kelly, you've been in the business for a long time. There are some things that you learned at the beginning of your career that seem like basics to you, right? Because you learned them so long ago. But if they are not still actively talked about, a lot of the newer agents might not know, or some of the people who have been around for a long time might have forgotten some of these really basic things that you feel like, oh, they've been around forever. Everybody knows this. And you were talking about you had a meeting and people on your team did not know this acronym.
Right.
So we want to make sure you all know it. We want to bring that back into the forefront. And it's all about rapport building. It's an acronym called FORD. So Kelly, Let's get into it. What does that mean? Why should we know this acronym? And let's take it from there.
Yeah, guys, this is going to be a good one. So hopefully you guys stay tuned here to the end because you're gonna walk away with some pretty basic things that are meat and potatoes. But even though it's basic, it's not talked about apparently as much as it probably should be. But there's this acronym FORD, okay? FORD. So we know about the acronym FORD when it comes to the car. I think everyone, growing up, I think my dad had a couple like really crappy Fords and found on road dead or fix or repair daily. That's not it, okay? We're not an automobile business. We are in the real estate business. So we are talking about FORD. That stands for Family, Occupation, Recreation, Dreams. Okay, so it's a framework. And again, frameworks are a great way to look at everything when it comes to building rapport and even sales in general. Again, a great book called Pitch Anything by Oren Klaff is one of my favorites, right? Probably top 5, top 10 book for sure. And he talks about frameworks. So everything is a framework. And you can be in a framework where you are in control and one which you are not. But either way, you're in a frame. Okay. And so how do you navigate around that to stay in control? Well, this is a framework for building rapport. So this could work on somebody that is cold on the phone you never actually met before. This could work for somebody but here's the key. They have to give you the time of day for at least the first 20, 30, 40 seconds on the phone to be able to then start talking to them and want to answer some questions. But this also works for somebody at the dinner party you go to, right? You and your spouse go to a dinner party. Someone invited you there. There's a bunch of people you don't know, and you start getting in conversation, at the dinner conversation. Well, you can use this framework. Now, is it self-serving? Not necessarily. I mean, yes, you want to do it for yourself because you want to get to know people because maybe they could be a client in the future. Anyone is a potential client, right? When you're a realtor. So that's cool. But it's also a good framework for just keeping conversation flowing, right? Let's say you had no hidden agenda. Let's say you're already a billionaire. It doesn't matter. Or you don't even want to sell them a house, but you have a license. This is a good framework for just talking to somebody and getting to know them at a deeper level. And guys, the whole saying of people don't know how much you care until don't care how much you know until you know how much you care, right? And so if you listen more than talk, people naturally would be drawn to that. That's just how it works. And so if you can act like you're already a billionaire and you don't need their business, you'll probably get their business. That's the ironic part about this, right? It just may take a little bit of time. It ain't going to happen the next week or two, most likely. But let's talk about family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. So the first one here is family. This is pretty self-explanatory. Okay, you're going to ask questions about their spouse, maybe how they grew up, their parents. It could be, but obviously most common is going to be their spouse, their kids, that sort of stuff. If they're obviously in that age group of having a family. And then you can ask questions about that. Be curious, come from curiosity, and just find out what's going on there. And then don't talk over them, right? Don't talk about your family. Oh, your kid's that. Oh, my kid does too. And my kid is this. And my kid. No, let them talk about their stuff. And you listen, ask questions intently. Second one, occupation. Pretty straightforward. What do you do? Okay. Naturally, when you ask someone what they do and they tell you, you don't have to say anything further. What they typically ask you back. What do
What
you
do
do?
you do? Yeah.
Yeah. And guess what? They asked you. So now you have a chance to tell them. By the
Your
way,
opportunity just came up.
it just came up.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, how do you answer that question? If you're a realtor, especially listening to this podcast right now, how do you answer that question? If you don't know how to answer that question, for yourself personally, that's something I want to challenge you as homework to do immediately after you stop listening to this podcast. Don't stop it now. Wait till the end.
We,
But
we
then
got more here.
yeah, we got
Yeah.
more. But then ask yourself that question, and you got to be able to answer that question in 30 seconds, right? It's like an elevator pitch. It's like an elevator pitch. What do you do? Now, some people have responses like, I help families actually achieve the American dream every single day. Does that mean you sell a house every day? No, it could, but no. But you're helping them. You're in the process of making one step further, move the ball down the field more yard to get somebody into home ownership. Okay, so that's something you could. And then like, oh, I think I know what that means. And then you can have a chance to maybe explain that further if you would like. But the reality is that's something you could say that's different than saying, oh, I'm a realtor. Because when you say that, most people will probably go, oh, okay, right? Because let's be honest, it doesn't have the best connotation out there. We all know that, right? Some people might think it's okay, some people might not, but it doesn't matter. But the point is, you're different by not saying the title of what you do. You get to explain what it is you get the privilege to do on a daily basis. Okay. And number three is going to be recreation. What are their hobbies? What do they like to do in their spare time? That's recreation. Okay. And that's pretty self-explanatory. That can go on for a while. And then dreams. Okay. Dreams are a big one. Like where do you want to be in 5 years? Okay. Oh, you do this right now because we know their occupation. Where does that lead you from here? What's the next step from there? Are you? Oh yeah, you're in an industry where to get that next step, you're probably going to be relocated. Oh, that's interesting. Why is it as a realtor? Why is that interesting? It's even more interesting than just being interested, right? Holy crap. Okay, well, yeah. So that's my next step. I really want to do that in 5 years. I really want to take that position, and there's only two of them in the company, and they're in Seattle and Austin, and you don't live in either one of those two cities. Oh, okay, cool. Well, then you're thinking, okay, that's Rolodex information, right, for yourself to put in your CRM, and then of course you follow up and just be naturally curious. But that is good information to have. It's a framework found Ford, right? Family, occupation, recreation, dreams. Now, something else you could do too as well. Okay, there's three main. I heard this from a gentleman who's a great marketer, by the way. But he said there's three main marketing aspects. Okay, so when you're marketing, these are the three main aspects. There's educational, entertainment, and endearment. Educational, entertainment, and endearment. Now, this gentleman says that educational should be about 60% of what you do when you market. 60%. Okay, entertainment should be about 30% of what you do when you market. You can't be boring and educational the entire time. And you can't just entertain the whole time, right? And there's a word out there that is called edutainment, right? Something like that. And because it's combining those two together. Okay, it's cool. But he said 60 and 30. The last 10% should be spent on endearment. Endearment. And this could be things like partnering with a charity, giving things away, raising money for a charity, or collecting donations or food for a food bank. These things. People liked to be part of that. Look at the biggest companies out there. They all have charities, foundations, that sort of thing. And because it makes someone feel good that somebody's aligned with something or someone that's doing good. And that's where the charity comes into play. So you
And
should
you
pick one
feel
that
like if
obviously,
you support this person, you are then supporting this cause in,
Bingo.
in a way. Hmm.
Yeah, 100%. It's subtle and it's aligned, and that's exactly right. And so that's why big companies do this because they understand that endearment aspect of the human psychology in the brain. People feel better about supporting this because they support the company they're buying things from. Okay, because maybe the average person is not going to be able to start a charity. That's just not. It's a big undertaking. So that's something you could do. So when you do social media, when you do a client event, when you market to your farm, all these things really should have educational, entertainment, and endearment attached to them. You can do a giveaway as a part of endearment, right? Giveaway could be, if the person who raises the most money for this charity of our choice gets this, whatever. A green egg smoker, whatever, right? And we've done all kinds of endearments, the Yeti coolers, whatever, right? All kinds of endearment campaigns in the past. So that's something that you should definitely consider. And then I'll leave you with one more thing. Then we'll wrap this up, okay? This is a good framework too, as well, for something you can do on a daily basis in your business. Again, this goes along the lines of Ford. So everyone knows they should be calling their clients. Everyone knows they should be calling their clients. You call them past clients, call them current clients, whatever you want to call them, but clients, okay? But most people don't. Why? Well, number one, they don't know what to say when they're going to call them because they don't need to buy a house. You sold them a house 2 years ago. They're good, right? As far as you're aware. And you're just calling. But you want to call and check in, make sure they don't forget about you. Don't think you don't like them anymore. So, because you don't want to be transactional. So you call them and you're like, hey, I'm just checking in. Now, that's not bad. That's cool. But people feel awkward doing that. So they don't do it. So one thing you can do is make a system where you're spending 5 minutes a day on 5 clients. What if you did the 5 for 5? Okay, 5 minutes a day for 5 clients. Now, again, this marketing guy who's really, really good mentioned this too as well. If you could spend 5 minutes a day picking out 5 clients to send something personal to them. Now, we're talking, it could be a phone call. We're talking a recorded video on your phone that you just sent to them via text saying, hey, how you doing? Thinking about you, whatever you want to say. Okay. Those types of things. Handwritten notes, 5 minutes, 5 clients, 5 days a week. Okay. So 5 for 5 for 5. Now, what are you going to say when you call them or do the video text? Well, throwing client events is a great excuse for that. And we talked about this before in this podcast, but he reminded or affirmed that when I was talking to him, that's a great opportunity to do that. Because if you have a client event, you always have a reason to invite them to the next thing. Okay. So I would highly recommend to do at least 3 client events per year. Some agents do as many as 1 a month. That's not my style. We don't do 1 a month, that's for sure. We do 3 to 4 a year, and that's it. But it always gives the agents and myself an opportunity to talk about the next thing upcoming. Okay, so we're going to recap: 5 for 5 for 5. 3 aspects of kind of marketing, or what when you're thinking about calling around your client database: engagement. Or, I'm sorry, educational, entertainment, and endearment. And then last but not least, Ford, building rapport to someone cold or someone you just met face to face somewhere else. Family, occupation, recreation, and dreams.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of leans into if you have Ford, which I know is probably you meet somebody at a dinner party, you use Ford, you know, and you want to be in the moment. Of course, you're not mentally taking all the, you're not writing down any notes, right? But whatever you can take from that conversation, add to their CRM, right? And then that also gives you, when you're making those calls, inviting them to events or whatever, you can, hey, I remember Johnny was graduating this year. Like, how are things going? Is you got a college picked out or whatever? So it all kind of leans into each other as well for those calls, and bringing up, like, don't make that Ford a one-time conversation, right? That you learned all this about them. Use that information to continue building rapport even after they've worked with you or whatever it is, right? So again, be in the moment with it, but like try to take mental notes and go and write that down somewhere else so that you've got that to reference as well.
There you go. And one little trick that I'm terrible at are names, right? They mentioned their kids' names. Holy
Mm-hmm.
crap. I sit there and I try to think that if the name is Susan, 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 I say it 3 times to myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I remember to do it. And if I don't remember to do it, I always forget the name. Like, but if I say Susan, 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 okay, now I got it. right? That's a little trick you can do too. And it works. It literally works if you just say it
Yeah,
to
well, you
yourself,
just like when you
yes.
got to call somebody, you're looking at a phone number, then you got to call it. You have to repeat the number a couple of
Yep.
times, and then you get
Yep.
it. So, yeah, it's definitely a trick that works. You just repeat, repeat, repeat. So,
Yep.
okay, well, everybody, like we said, that's something that Kelly learned a long time ago that I have never heard talked about. And like I said, I think there was some agents on his team that weren't aware of that as well. So hopefully that you can use that. And you're probably having similar conversations and didn't really have a name for it. And maybe you were missing out on some of those acronyms. So now this is a framework for how to have those conversations, start building those relationships, and grow those relationships as well. All not only for your business, but this is a relationship business, right? So the more people you're in relationships with, the better you're going to do in the long term. So,
That's the currency. That's the currency in today's real estate industry. And it's going to be more and more valuable
mhm.
with as AI continues to get more and more powerful.
As we get all of these things that are more automated and, computer essentially, the human aspect is going to be in more scarce quantity, I
Yep.
think. And that's, like Kelly said, going to be the thing that you have to hold on to because that's what people are going to crave essentially is that human
Yep.
connection.
That's
So,
it.
all right. Well, Kelly, if anybody has any questions about Ford or any of the other couple of things you talked about, 5 for 5, the three methods of marketing, where can they reach out to you?
Yeah. At Kelly Cook Homes on Instagram. That's our social, our short form channel of choice. At Kelly Cook Homes on Instagram. Hit me up, shoot me a like. That'd be cool.
Yeah. All right, everybody. We will see you next week with something new for you. Bye, Kelly.
See you guys.